Good morning. It is Friday, the 25th of August 2025, and I am reading the second part of a chapter I had just started earlier, and it was entitled Flood Water. This is Eyes of Horus, which is a farm memory book by Joan Marshal Grants. She wrote 7 of these farm memory novels or books. She died in 1989, and I am reading about Ra-up, who she is in this life, which placed 3,500 years before BC, basically. There is a flood, and there was a raft. One of the men pushing the raft was a soldier, and I shouted to him to ask where Sebek was. He told me that he had last seen him in the centre of the town, where the people were being assembled in the marketplace, as the water was shallower there than in the adjoining streets. I wondered if the storm was really abating, or if I had merely grown accustomed to incessant noise. I passed 2 more parties of men pushing rafts on which lay injured people. I knew that Sebek would have been to every house I passed, so did not stop at any of them. The ground sloped up towards the marketplace, and when I reached it, the water was only to my knees. By the light of torches, Sebek was directing people how to salvage their possessions. Goats had been herded within the shelter of the garden of the largest house, and sacks of grain were being carried up on the flat roofs. I reached Sebek. What can I do to help? I stayed behind in one of the first houses. A woman there had gone mad, but I shouldn't have stayed so long. Bennett came back to look for me. Then the wall broke just after he got out. Is he all right? I haven't seen him. Was the woman hurt? We had to hit her before we could get her out. Then Bennett will have taken her to Chios. You'd better go back to Chios too. She'll need your help. The water is not rising anymore. Either it's found its own level or the aqueduct has broken again further down. The worst of the danger is past, and I'm trying to save as many of their possessions as I can. They may panic if there's no one here to tell them what to do, but you'd better go back to Chios. Several people have been hurt. I don't yet know how many have been drowned. I can send Sayak with you. Sayak had a torch, and he led, and I was glad to have him to follow. The current had lost its violence, and we would make our way against it without much effort. We were nearly home before I realized the wind had stopped. Light was showing between the shutters and the water that was seated below the second step of the entrance opposite the servants' quarters. Chios was coming out of the storeroom. She ran to me. Oh, Ra, I've been so frightened about you. Bennett told me he last saw you in the house from where he brought the woman. He said he looked back when he got her part of the way here and saw the house was on fire. He thought it might have been the one you had been in. And when I realized he hadn't seen you come out of it, he nearly dropped her and went back to look for you. Was it the house you were in? Yes, but I'm all right. I got out before the fire got properly started. I set it alight myself. I tell you why tomorrow. How many people are here? Only 12 who are hurt. There were quite a lot of women and children, but they are looking after each other. I've managed to give them some hot food. I got it ready before the first of them reached here. Where did you put them? They're in the big 2 rooms at the other end of the hall. As soon as you'd got home, I burned the herbs that Nefer Ankh sent us. We didn't have time to do it for as long as he told us to, but I had to take the risk of putting people in there. There was no room for them anywhere else. When you got here, I was looking for some rags and a narrow piece of wood to set a broken arm. Have you ever set an arm? I haven't. I do wish Pata'aru hadn't gone back to the temple. Are many of them badly hurt? No, there's only the woman with a broken arm and a man who was crushed under a falling beam. He says there is a terrible pain in his stomach, and he's badly bruised over his ribs. But I do not think any bones are broken. Have you given him a sleep drink? Yes, but it doesn't seem to have done much good. He's still moaning. Bennett is putting hot cloths on him, and that seems to help. She looked tired and very young, and yet she was strong in her own authority. Do you think I'd better set the armour up, or would you like to try it first? You'll do it better than I could, but I'll come and help. It's going to hurt her a lot. The sleep drink doesn't seem to have done her much good either. It doesn't seem to work as well as it did with the pain of the pestilence. The woman was lying on the mattress nearest the door. I recognized her as the woman I had seen unconscious on the raft. The bone of the upper arm had not pierced the skin, but it was pressing against it and looked like a second elbow. Kias knelt beside her. The woman tried to smile. She reminded me of when my favorite hound had licked my face while I was cutting a poison thorn out of its paw. You told me her other hand, Ra'ab. You hold her other hand, Ra'ab. Gently, Kias tried to straighten the arm. The blood drained from the woman's face and her thin fingers dug into my palm. This is going to hurt a lot, Kias told her. You're very brave. I wish I was as brave as you are. She gave a sudden, strong, steady pull at the hand and forearm. The woman shuddered, and I saw that the teeth clenched on her lip to keep back a cry were stained with blood. But the arm was straight, and there was no longer a projection under the bruised flesh. I helped Kias to set the splint in position, a pad of soft rags in the armpit, and another above the elbow before it was closely bandaged. I sat with her while Kias fetched her a bowl of broth. I smelled the drowsy scent of poppies as I fed her with it. You will soon be asleep, said Kias, soon be asleep. The woman nodded. Already her eyelids were heavy. Yes, I shall soon be asleep. The oryx has protected me. I shall soon be asleep. Bennick joined Kias and me as we left the sleeping woman. The injured man is drowsy now, he said. I don't think there's anything else we can do for him. He says the pain's much easier. Couldn't you rest? I'll call you if one needs you. Yes, Bennick, I'll leave them in your care, but call me at once if you need me. Kias led me to the storeroom. We'll have to sleep in here. There's women and children and 3 children in my room. We spread our sleeping mats side by side. There was no window, only a grating high in the wall. I took off my sodden clothes and was just rolling myself up in the woolen cover to try to get warm, when I suddenly remembered the woman of the house of Set. Kias, where's the woman that Bennick brought here? She's not with the others. I'll tell you about her in the morning. No, I want to know now. Please, Rod, wait until the morning. You can't do anything now. I sat up, no longer sleepy. You have got to tell me, Kias. Did Bennick hit her too hard? Is she dead? Oh, Rob, I do wish you wouldn't worry about her tonight. She's not dead, at least her body isn't. Her eyes are open, but they don't seem to see anything, though she is not blind. She doesn't hear when I speak to her, yet she begins to scream and cringes away from something I can't see. They are terrible screams, Rob. I think even Bennick is frightened of them, though he tried to make me believe that one of his relations sometimes behaved just the same. He said it's because she was so frightened of the flood, but I don't think he believes that any more than I do. Where have you put her? She's in the little room where the wine used to be kept, next to the kitchen quarters. I couldn't keep her here, because she frightens the others too much. I tried to give her a strong poppy drink, but she thought I was Sekhmet trying to poison her, and I couldn't make her swallow it. What's happened to her, Rob? I've never seen anyone like that. In terror, beyond terror. You shouldn't have left her alone without someone to guard her. She might kill herself before we could find out how to protect her from Set. I thought of that. I had to tie her hands to her sides because she was trying to bite open the veins in her wrist. She said she was making Set impatient because he was thirsty for her blood. I was frightened of her. So frightened I almost wanted to kill her. I've never felt like that except about snakes. She sold herself to Set, and we've got to get her back again. We've got to prove that we can protect our people. Rab, she's mad. It's not Set. She's just gone mad. That's only a word for something we don't really understand. Listen, and I'll tell you what I know about her. As I spoke, it seemed as though I was back in the little fetid room. The water was pressing down on me, and I could hear the echo. Ra, Set, Ra, Set. Don't, Rob, don't remember any more. She belongs to Set, not to us. She deserves the caverns for having tried to bring filth into the oryx. That's not true. Fear is her only sin. We were not strong enough to break her fear, and that is why she turned to Set. She knew of the caverns, and yet she was ready to suffer them for eternity, if the spirits of her son and her husband might go free. Would you call me a coward if I would go to the caverns to free your soul? Don't you realize that for her we must fight as Ra's children against his enemy? I don't know any magic. What can we do? We've both got to learn about magic, or how can the oryx be real protection? We must take her to Nefer Ankh as soon as possible, as soon as Sebek comes back. He'll be able to look after her, after the people here, but we've got to learn to deal with people like this here. That was a very interesting chapter. The next chapter is entitled Invocation to Ra. Have a lovely Friday.